to resume recording. Um, Welcome, everybody. Kenda Summers, and of course, everybody knows Kate.
Hi,
We,
everybody.
we are really excited to be here with all of you, and I can see us, Kate, so we are live now. Um, Before we get started, before we do anything, I just want to kind of explain we're doing something different this week. And well, actually, not just this week, moving forward. Kate and I want to engage more with all of you. And the one thing we talked about kind of offline was how can we serve you better? What kind of things do you need from us to help you move through this process? And one of the things we thought was you having the opportunity to talk to us directly and ask us questions about what you're going through and difficulties and trials and tribulations that are coming up within your grief. And this week, the topic that we thought was really, really important is anniversaries. And it's particularly important to you, Kate, because this is a big anniversary for you, August 1st, right?
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Do you are you comfortable talking a little bit about it?
No, I'm comfortable talking about anything about it,
Okay, sure.
everything about
So
it.
let's fill everybody in, and I'll let you take over because it's your story.
Yeah, well, it just seemed fitting since you approached me to do this, and thank you for that. That when we were wondering what subject matter, I say, well, I'm coming up on Jack's anniversary, and I know that a lot of the group members, I would guess that 80% of the group members are celebrating some kind of anniversary, whether it's a year or 5 years or 16 years or three hours, 7 days,
Yeah,
16 seconds.
right.
That's and we talk a lot, Jack and I talk a lot about the difference between the heart and the mind, the heart and the head. And our hearts remember the anniversaries, even if we are not thinking about them. So they're very powerful, emotional, potentially emotional dates in our lives.
What will you do, Kate, if you don't mind me asking, and if you're able to share with us, what do you typically do when that day comes around? What's the norm for you?
Yeah. Well, the first thing that happens, and it's happened every year, and it's happening this year as well, is I see the date looming on the horizon. And I say to I look at the date, and let's say it's July 27th. And I say, what was I doing July 27th? I had picked him up from the surgery. July 26th, I didn't know there would ever be a problem that we were going to be facing. But July 27th, everything changed. And that's an anniversary. It's an anniversary of the end of the innocence of thinking we're going to have a lot of time together. So that happens every year. And I have six years now. I'm coming up on the sixth year. The first anniversary was very, very, very difficult. And you get through that whole first year of all the first times without him. That year is difficult. That anniversary is difficult. And what do? I cry. I cried on that anniversary. I cried on the second. I cried on the third.
Mhm.
I cried on the fourth. I didn't weep, but I was shedding tears. And then last year, I didn't know what to expect, and I didn't shed a single tear.
Oh,
And I just can say my face would melt into a very gentle smile for the thought of him. And occasionally, if I was I look at photos and videos of him. I try to post some extra things on Facebook for people and for me. But sometimes I'd get a giggle out of something he was doing in a video. So that fifth year was a turning point for me.
no. Yeah.
And I'm thinking this year is going to be as good, if not better than that.
Good. You
Yeah.
posted a video of Jack that I had never seen before,
Oh,
and
yeah,
I
that's
loved it.
fun.
We should actually post it in this group so people can get familiar with who Jack is, because a lot of
Sure.
people probably are thinking, okay, who is this Jack?
Oh, he's not my husband. No.
No, no. And I want everybody to notice the books that I have behind me. Kate is an author, for those of you who aren't familiar with who she is. And we run this group together. She also has another group which is healing solutions heart to heart,
Healing Pet Loss Heart to Heart.
healing pet loss heart to heart. So feel free to join that group as well, where it's got a kind of a different vibe. Both the groups kind of have the same message, but different, right? Would you say?
Yeah, and they both are, we're both into healing the heart. Not every pet loss group on Facebook or other places are into healing. A lot of them are into, I don't know if they're into it, but they have a tendency to keep the grief alive
Right.
by how they respond. And we're trying to do something very different here. This is all about healing. And you hate the term moving on because you don't want to move on from the one that you love, but you can't stay stuck in that. And
Mm.
they don't want us to stay stuck in that. They want us to move on because they want us to access our heart and our love and our openness to loving again. They're the ones that taught us to love so well.
What's that part that you say in Jack's book in Reflections? And it's where you came to uh, the thought process that you needed to let him go. So you needed to stop
Yeah,
grieving so hard for him because he was stuck, right?
yeah,
And you were stuck.
he was stuck. Yeah, how that happened, that happened about 6 months, well, right before I released the first book. So 6 to 8 months after Jack passed, I had breakfast with a minister friend of mine, and she was very concerned about me. And I'm like, no, you're worried too much about me. You don't need to worry about me. And she said, well, I'm not as worried about you as I'm worried about Jack. And I said, you're worried about Jack? And she says, Kate, you're holding him on a leash of your grief, and you're not letting him go. He can't fully live in heaven until you let him go.
Interesting.
And so I responded with the um the thought just came into my head. It would be like being at the dog park and all the dogs are running all around, and here I've still got him on a leash so he can't join them. So a lot of people don't like to hear that. They think if we let go of that leash that we're letting go of our pet,
Right.
but we're letting them go free so that they can come back to us.
Mhm.
And the people that won't let go are the ones that say, I don't know why I can't dream of him. I don't hurt her. I don't know where the signs are for me. I don't see any cardinals and dragonflies.
Mhm.
What I've been abandoned. And it's like, no, you haven't let go of the leash to let him cross so that he could become those things.
Right. And
I mean,
it's not an easy thing to do, is it?
it's really hard. It's letting go.
It's like, and trusting, right? It's almost like you're on that pier and you're looking down at the water and you're like, okay, this, I don't want to do this because
Right,
I don't know what's going to happen when I let go, right?
right, right.
And it's trust. It's a huge trust,
Yeah,
and that's where you fall back onto the love, right? The love that you've
it is.
had.
And
Yeah.
in the scheme of things with my work with hospice, um, this is just a practice session. All these letting goes, these little letting goes, they seem really big to us, but compared to death, death is the ultimate letting go for us. And if we can do this successfully along the way, I think it's by design, by our creator to design for us to let go and let go and let go of our parents, let go of our friends, let go of our children sometimes, and of course, let go of our pets.
Mhm.
We do it again and again and again with our pets if
Mhm.
all goes well and we keep loving. But it's all preparing us to have the faith, to have the trust, to have the practice of letting go when it comes our time
Our
to
time.
go.
Yeah, because there's different types of deaths, and I used to do a lot of palliative, not anything near like what you've done, but I used to do palliative care too. And it's like there's good deaths and there's bad deaths. And
That's right.
when you're at the end of the line, so to speak, you don't want a bad death. And what I mean by that is, full of regrets and full of anger and just you want that peace. and
Yeah,
and I think we learn that, like you said, from the things that life throws our way and
that's
how we
right.
deal with them in particular loss, right?
Right. And the clinging to our loved ones that have passed, or the clinging to it's a common word we use in hospice, the term clinging, in the bereavement part, but those that are clinging at the end of life are always in pain. It's like they're ripping themselves away from this life instead of just letting themselves
Yeah.
go with the experience and end up where they're going to end up. They're going to end
And
up
it's
there anyway, and may as well go easily.
right. And it's got to be horrible for the family members, right?
Horrible. It's horrible.
It's, and I mean, I'm equating that to us
Mhm.
holding on to our beloved pets,
Yeah,
and there's a difference between like your book, and I have, oh, my desk is so messy right now.
that's okay. Which book?
I'm going to
The
point the wrong
bereavement?
way. It's not
That
putting me
one.
down, it's lifting me up.
Oh,
It's just like that, right? It's, you're
yeah.
not letting go of the memory, of the love. You're
No,
lifting them up and freeing them to go on to do what they need to do in the spiritual world.
that's right. You're
Yeah.
still a team. You're still a team.
Oh, absolutely.
Jack and I are still a team. Look at, where did these books come from? They didn't come from me. They came from him.
And you know what I love when we talk and you say when you get into the mode to
Yeah,
writing, you literally you become Jack.
I do become
And
Jack. When you say, when you had said to me, what's that part in your book where you say, and I'm like, God, I hope I remember this, because I don't remember writing half the stuff in these books.
you get it, you become Jack. You have an alter
Yeah,
ego,
that's
and
how
that
close we
ego,
are. He's
pardon me,
right here. That's how close we are.
yeah. and
He's
and
not, he's not.
that's people. It's so, how do you get that message across, Kate? How do you get that message across to people who are newly grieving, that by letting go you're not letting go? how do
Well,
you, how
that's
do you get that message across?
through my books.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
book number one, I don't know
Which
what
is,
I'm
I'm so
looking.
bad. Book number one,
Your
reflection.
right, your right hand point up over on this side. No, other way. There
Book
it is.
number one, reflections. This is
Book
testing
one.
my coordination.
Most people don't want to start reading with a book like number four, the green one, because it's just a lot of information.
Yeah.
But one, two, and three are all written similarly. They're written very simply. They're written with a big font and lots of space and really short chapters, so that
And
people.
and a great place to start is, it's not putting me down, it's lifting me up, right?
That's a good place to start, because it's a
Absolutely.
short little book,
Mhm.
but it's intense. It can be intense.
It, yeah, because it's all that. Well, I'm going to talk about my own experience,
Yeah.
and we have some people here. If you guys, I'm looking, I'm so hard multitasking here. If you guys have any questions, Lisa, hello. Please type some questions in for us, because I'm keeping an eye on everything. When I lost Stella, and I lost her 3 years ago, June 17th, in a horrible accident. It's funny, Kate, when the anniversary comes around for me, I don't, it's not that I don't want anything to do with it, but I can't help but go back to that time when it was just so painful for me.
Yeah.
So I will acknowledge the anniversary. I'll shed some tears. I usually put my hand on her box of ashes, and just kind of touch her, but then I have to let it go, because I don't trust myself to to be okay. Does that make sense to
Yes,
you?
it does. You don't want to open that old wound
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
It's not closed up all the way yet.
It's not closed up all the way.
No.
And I recognize that. And I recognize that. And I think that's important for people to recognize. Um, So what are some rituals that people that you've talked to, that you've seen, and maybe even in the human world, what are some rituals that people do on these anniversary dates?
Well, they go in their garden where they have their dogs or cats are in their garden.
Mhm.
I can only speak for myself, really, that every year on August 1st, I am in Sedona, where I shared my life with him. And every August 1st, I walk our trail. sometimes with Emmy and Joey, and sometimes just by myself. But I'm going to be in Sedona on August 1st this year. I'm leaving tomorrow. I'm going to
Uh-huh.
go up there. And a couple of years I didn't plan to be there on August 1st, but I have a friend up there whose birthday's the 29th of July. So I'd go for her birthday, and then all of a sudden I'd say, look where I am, August 1st again.
Almost like
So
divine intervention, right?
yeah, yeah. But
There's
today I posted something on Jack's page that it's Joey, and he says, "Are we having a celebration of life party for Jack this year?" And Jack, of course, says, "I hope you make my favorite pumpkin peanut butter carrot cake."
oh,
And I think when I get back from Sedona, I will make that carrot cake.
nice.
But it's a celebration of life, not a
Right.
not a celebrate, not a remorseful death.
No.
It's life. The
Yeah.
fact that we had them, my gosh, the fact that he was even in my life.
Mhm.
You got to
And
think about what your life would have been like without them, and
without
it's not
them.
about the death.
And the lessons, right, Kate? The
Lesson.
lessons that Jack taught you, the
Yep,
person that you are today because of him.
yep, that's right.
Um, and you have to get there. And a lot of people, I mean, when you're freshly breathing, it's going to take a long time to be able to look at the loss that clear-headed.
For
but
most.
but you can get there, and that's the thing that you need to hold hope out for.
That's right.
There's so many people that are just they're hurting so much and they just want the pain to go away,
Yeah.
and it's like you can't move over that pain. You got to go through it. It's like that
Mhm.
fire, that hoop on fire. You've got to jump through that hoop,
You gotta take a
because
chance.
that's where safety is on the other side.
That's right. It's everything is a test of faith. Everything.
Yeah.
And this is a big one because it makes you question everything, but it's really it all. The bottom line is always faith.
Oh,
Faith and hope and love, you know? Greatest
yeah.
of these is love.
The basis of life, right?
Yep.
Faith, hope, and love. Um, okay, we've got a question here on our Ask Us Anything, Kate. So
Yes.
Tina says, I struggle with the guilt of putting my dog to sleep. I didn't see it coming that day, and I just listened to the vet without getting a second opinion. How would you suggest dealing with the guilt? I want my pup to forgive me. It's been 8 months now.
You want me to answer that?
Sure, sure. What you tell me what you would.
Well, the first thing is to understand what guilt is, and guilt is the human condition. There's very, very few people that don't resonate with guilt. And so it comes very naturally to us in these difficult times. So that's the number one thing. And number two thing is when we go to a vet and we're afraid about the news we're going to get, or we become kind of, most of us become kind of passive, and we just nod our heads when the vet says sorry.
It's okay.
We get very passive when the vet says we need to do this, we need to do that. We don't question him. We just, because it's too much to absorb.
Mhm.
And so we tend to just be deer in headlights and shake our heads. Okay, okay, okay. And then afterwards, I mean, we could have gotten a second opinion. I could have, when Jack went in for surgery, I could have gotten a second opinion. I didn't, and I even think back to that day. I always pray for good outcomes. And did I pray for him that day? Is
You
that crazy that I did not think to pray for him that day? And so even to this day, I say, why didn't I pray for him that day? What was the matter with me? I was on overload.
right,
We get on
right.
overload, and then we can't even process it
Yeah.
until boom, it's done. They have passed, and we're alone with ourselves. And then we go over and over and over again what we could have done, what we should have done, what we didn't do, what we did do. And there's no answer except working through it to get to the peace.
It's interesting. Stelly had some health issues this last week, and I had to rush her to the emergency vet, and it was all really scary and frightening. And crazy to me how my emotions started to come into play, Kate. And I'm like, okay, she's only 2 years old. I lost Stella when she was 2 years old. Like, is
Yeah,
this God punishing me? Is this
yeah,
happening to me? And oh my God, you can't do this to me. And I saw myself starting to go down that road. I call it like insanity. And I'm like, stop, Kenda, stop. Like, pull yourself together.
yeah.
Don't be like this. But it was amazing how close to that edge I was, even though I see myself as being fairly well recovered, you know. But
Sure.
it just that little thing, just
Yep.
it was amazing how quickly it almost took me back there.
Right. Well, and there's
Uh,
the power of an anniversary right there. That was an anniversary. Two
yeah,
years old equals 2 years old.
yeah,
Doesn't always equal truth.
no, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And Tina, apart from what Kate said, I would have to say the worst part is like us trying to substantiate the should haves and the could haves and whatnot. I You have to trust and believe that you did the best thing that you could do at the time with the knowledge that you had. And it's just so dangerous to play those games of, well, what if,
Yeah.
because I think, and Kate, correct me if I'm wrong, you can go crazy playing that game, right?
You can, what I did was, and what I did is what everybody does to an extent. I kept rewinding, and right before Jack passed on our kitchen floor, and I was home alone with him, and right before he passed, he had a seizure type of thing, and he made a sound that I'll never forget, and I can't tell you what the sound was, but I'll never forget it. And I was starting to heal, but I'd get stuck on that moment, and I'd play that moment again, and I would sob and I would cry and I would lose it. And finally one day I said, I've got to not focus on that moment. That's not what he wants me to remember about him. He wants me to remember him being a goofball and having a great time, not having a seizure in the last moments of his life. So I had to rationalize that I'm doing this for him, to stop going there. And sure enough, you can train your brain to stop going there. It's stop. You're not welcome here. That image is not welcome here. No.
You are 100%, and that's some of the techniques that we provide to people at kind of at the beginning of the Facebook group. There's videos on there where we talk about things that you can do with your mind to stop yourself from going there, because it's a really scary place to be.
Yeah.
And it doesn't do you any good to go there. I mean, yes, at the beginning you're going to spend a little bit of time going over, excuse me, and replaying all that in
Natural.
your mind,
It's
but
natural.
eventually you're going to have to get to the point where it's just like you said, Kate, stop. And like physically envision a big red stop sign in your mind. And an easy thing that I tell people, something real easy to do to ground themselves, bring themselves back into the moment, look around and notice 5 things around them, and actually say them. you know, I see a clock, I see a water bottle, I see a window, I see trees, I see a camera. And bring yourself back into the now, and don't allow yourself to go into that loop where you're playing whatever over and over and over again, which
Right.
is just detrimental to you.
That's right. Jack says, I think in book 3, he says, it's like changing the station on a radio. If the song comes on and it doesn't feel good, you change the station to something
Yeah,
that feels better. And that's what we have to do with our own minds. And we have the power to do that.
exactly. If
Yeah.
if we want to, right, Kate?
Yeah, we have the power if we want to do it. We
If we
always have
want,
the power.
yes, yeah, we always have the power.
But
Um, Tina says
I
it
think,
was just so sudden. I only had minutes to say goodbye. Tina,
uh,
I can't even imagine. It's horrible. And there is a recording that we have at the beginning of the Facebook group that just focuses on guilt. That might be beneficial for you to listen to. And Kate, on your it's not putting me down, it's lifting me up. There's probably a lot of that guilt, overcoming that guilt in that book as well, right?
Well, I think the subtitle of it is A Guilt-Free Guide to Pet Loss and Grief. I think is what it is.
And you can,
So,
and Tina, you can download that book for free. If you go to, I think we have a link on our Facebook group, and as well as if you go to Kate's website, I think you give people a link
yeah,
for that as well, right, Kate?
yeah, and it's on Jack's page, and
And
it's
it's on
on.
Jack's page. Jack has a page, so maybe we should tell people about Jack's page because, as I said, there's new people coming in here all the time that don't even
Sure.
know who Jack is.
Oh, he'd love to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talks directly to people. And
So
you know that the number one thing people ask him, when you see my Monty up in heaven, would you tell him I love you, I love him, and that I haven't forgotten him? And Jack always says, you can tell him yourself. He hasn't forgotten you.
I
You
love
tell,
that.
but I'll be happy, or give him a hug for me, they say. And Jack's like, oh, I love a reason to give him a hug, so I'll give him a hug. But you can talk to him yourself.
So he's kind of our Rainbow Bridge patriot, right?
He
Like
kind of is,
he's
yeah,
meeting everybody as they're coming across there and telling them it's going to be okay,
yeah,
and 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 that this is an okay place to be.
yeah. So
I love
he
that,
does.
Kate.
He does on his page what we do in the books. If people just aren't up to reading a book, if you follow his page long enough, it'll change the way you think.
I like that. And we'll
Yeah,
put a link down below because, as I said, a lot of people probably don't even realize that Jack has his own page.
probably not. They think he's my husband.
Yeah.
They do.
Oh, he's got four. Well, you know what? He'd be a great husband.
He would. He was.
My dog is my best friend, and I think she'd be a great, well, she's a girl, but she'd be a
Yeah.
great wife. Susan. Susan has a question for us. She says, my neighbor has a blind Shih Tzu and his health is failing. He goes for fluids weekly, just like mine did. The neighbors are up through the night with him, just like we used to. Every time I see the neighbors out with him, it brings back all the sad memories I had with my dog when her health was failing. It was so sad to see, and it makes me sad too. I look at my neighbors and see myself almost 3 years ago. So I'll let you answer that, Kate.
I'll tell
What would
you
your advice be?
one of the reasons those things happen, that you see those things. Thank you for asking the question. Um, is that sometimes if you're 3 years into this, you've healed somewhat. You may not have healed all the way, but you've healed somewhat. And those people are just starting to go through this. And sometimes it's a way for you to know that what you need to give those people so that they can you can maybe help them to say, you know, I've been through this. Is there a way I can help you? I've noticed how hard it is for your dog to get around. And have you thought about, you know, what your options are? Have you, you know, what have you been through to help your dog? And it's an opportunity to help other people,
And
as
by
I see
doing
it.
that, that helps you, right?
That's
and
right.
and that's the beautiful part of having a kind of like a bereavement Facebook group is so that you can, even though you're not supposed to compare one grief to another grief, you can also see the personal growth or
Sure.
lack of personal growth,
Or lack
right?
of, yeah, or
Yeah.
lack of intuition. Maybe those people are so caught up in and and you never know about the people. Maybe they're just taking it in stride. Some of them do, and others take it deeply to heart, and everything in the middle. But um, you know, I think maybe they need direction. Maybe
Yeah.
they need someone to reach out and say, I care. Is there a way I can help you? I've been
Yeah.
through it too.
I've been through this, and what can I
Yeah.
do to help? And I don't know, there's just something healing when you can help somebody else. And I don't know what that is. Like when you're wounded, by helping somebody else, it helps you. It helps you to heal.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's kind of the beauty part of having a group where everybody's at different levels. And I'm so appreciative of your angels, people who are in the group that came
Yeah.
from your group, Kate, that helped me out with talking to people and just kind of explaining to them
Yeah.
what you're going through is perfectly normal. And yes, it feels like you're losing your everything, but you're not, and things will get better in time. And I'm so appreciative. And I probably don't say that enough. I'm so
Well,
appreciative of the angels coming over and helping just guide people, you
are
know.
you talking the jacklights? The jacklights.
Jack lights,
Yeah.
yeah, Jack lights.
It amazes me that these people are still here, still supporting, still sharing 5 years later. Because when we heal, sometimes we rotate out of the grief stuff. We don't want to go back into it. It's just like, let me get on with my life. And at a certain point, you leave the grief behind, and you don't want to be around people that are grieving because it just doesn't feel good. And yet these people that are the jacklights are, they've been very seasoned. They've been through it. They've read all the books. They've healed their hearts, and they want to heal others too. And
Absolutely.
they do.
I'm so appreciative of them. I'm so appreciative of them. So at the beginning, when people are going through the grieving process, there is not a lot you can do. And when people will say, and they'll private message me and they'll go, Kenda, I'm hurting so bad. Please help this pain stop. And I sound like a broken record, Kate, because there's really no advice we can give them. I mean, there is, but there isn't, right? They need to process. They need to go through all the steps of grief, whatever their steps and levels will be. But reading a book is a really easy way for you to understand. And I
Right.
think for myself, that's where I found I had the greatest kind of aha moments. And even though I have like a pretty comfortable background with death, I didn't with losing a pet. I
Right.
didn't, and I didn't
Different.
put the two of those things together. But when I read Jack's books, um, that's where I started to think about things differently and look at things in a different light.
Yeah, and it's the first three books are storybooks. So you're just reading a once upon a time there was a dog born in a puppy mill, and then it talks about his life, and then he talks about our life, and then he talks about his death, and then he talks about how he saw me grieving, and I was not grieving well. I'm a grief counselor, but I didn't walk my talk. And I was reveling in the grief for way too long. And then he came to me at the 6 month mark and rewrote this book. But the book is just a storybook. It's not a heavy duty. This is how you get through grief book. It's just a storybook, and it heals you as you read it.
Right. That's
Yeah,
the magic, right? That's where the magic happens is you
yeah,
don't realize that you're being healed as you're reading and gaining insight.
that's right.
Yeah.
And
And
a lot of
sorry,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
You go.
Well, I was going to say, did you mention that your father passed away right after Jack?
I did. I mentioned it in book two.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
didn't put it in book one. It was too much for book one. I didn't even tell anybody I had Joey. It was just too much. But I'm not crying. I just have something hanging around.
Right,
But
but that's where things
yeah,
get complicated, right? When you have two deaths so close to each other, you have to take each of those deaths and grieve for them one on one separately, not together. And
no,
that's
you can only do one at a time. I
right.
did my dad first because I know he'd be the easier one. Sorry, Dad. But no, and then I had guilt to that. It's like, I'm sorry, Dad. I just love Jack so much.
Yeah. It's
But
it's a different bond.
it's
People always
very
say,
different.
I love my dog more than people. And it's when you love pets, you realize that that is not all that insane of a statement to make,
No,
you
well, it's
know?
because they're unconditional. No, very, very few people on this earth are unconditional. You know, the Dalai Lama or Mother Teresa or our pets
Yeah, they're all right up there, right?
are all up there in the same vibrational level.
Dog, God.
Yep.
Kate makes these incredible bracelets, and she sent me one, and it's beautiful. I don't know if you guys can see it
Oh,
or
there it
not.
is.
And it says it's there's beads on here, and it says God and it says dog, and I love it, and I get so many compliments on this. So
Uh,
it's my good luck charm. I keep it on.
all the
Um,
colors of the rainbow, the
all the
spectrum
colors.
meets you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
gorgeous. Which book are you alluding to out of all the books that help with grief? This is Michelle asking. So Gosh, I would say them all, right?
I would
Where would
say,
you start, Kate?
well, I would start with one, two, and three are the trilogy. They're the storybook trilogy. And then four is just it's a pretty powerful guide to pet loss and grief. It talks about the stages of grief and what you can expect to go through, and what you can expect to go through at the veterinarian's office, or if you don't have a veterinarian involved, what to go through with trauma and loss, and how to talk to your kids, and how to take care of your other pets, and how to take care of yourself. So
Yeah.
that's the fourth book, the green one. The purple one's the human version of that. And then the it's putting me down, it's not putting me down, it's lifting me up, is a little book that's actually taken from the green book. So it's
I'll look for it, but it is such an easy read, guys. And
the answer to the question would be to read either book Reflections, which is the very first book, the
yep,
story book, or if you're more into reading nonfiction, I would read the fourth book, the green one, Only
green
Gone
one,
from Your Sight. So
right.
a lot depends on what kind of person, what kind of reader you are. But the
Yeah,
easiest one to read to get the most out of it would be Reflections, the storybook.
reflections. I'm just checking out comments here. Um, what was the other thing I wanted to talk? Okay, so tell us how you went from Jack to The Walls Between Us. And you can see that. I got to move my chair. I'm I'm so bad at this. I don't know where to go. The
It's like,
Walls Between Us. Okay, so explain that book to us because that's a
wow.
little bit different. And this is newly authored, right?
Yes, I just released it about a month ago, and I was writing books before Jack passed, and I had written a screenplay, which is the screenplay version of the book you're pointing out.
Mhm.
But when I brought Jack back from the hospital on Tuesday, I took the week off from work, and I thought I'm just going to hang out with him, and he's going to heal, and I'm going to just take the week off and be with him and finish my book. And I didn't expect him to go down and down and down and down and down. And we were sleeping on the kitchen floor. There was nothing that took my attention away from him.
Mhm.
And then I was in the grief, and then I had written the book, and all these books were pouring out of me. I couldn't help it. And next thing you know, it's 5 years later, and it's like, I need a little break from the grief. I've
Yeah.
been living grief 24/7 for 5 years, 4 years. And anyway, so I reincarnated a love affair I had in the year 2000. Um, I met a Mexican gentleman in Syracuse, New York, at the farmers market, and one thing led to another, and he blew my mind about Mexico and traditions and culture and intuition and knowing things. He was from a very spiritual family, and he changed my life. And now that I'm not in Syracuse anymore. I live in a little town called Tubac, which is a half an hour from Nogales, which is the border town of Mexico and the United States. And I'm in love with this area. So this was a way for me to put that little love story into a readable form,
Nice.
and to bring my love of Arizona and southern Arizona into it, and bring some other characters like the vigilante down here that likes to shoot people as they cross his ranch lands, and the woman that was trafficked at the border when she's trying to get home, and a Native American
Amazing.
girl who wants to be a teacher who gets trafficked as well. So it just
It's an amazing story. And especially now with everything that's going on in the world, how it really kind of touches home with
yeah,
a lot of stuff that goes on that we have no idea about. No
no,
idea about.
no.
It's a fabulous book. And that if they go on to Amazon, they can take a sneak peek at a couple of the chapters, right, Kate?
They can do it on Amazon, or they can do it on my author page. You can just click on that and it takes you to a link where you can download it.
And I'm so bad, guys, because I'm one of these people that I can't watch television at night because I fall asleep. I can't read at night because I fall asleep. I was like always terrible at drive-in movies because I'd be like sleeping.
Uh,
So, and you know what? I have a book here and I have to start scheduling time off, personal time off for me to sit down and read books
uh,
because I'm so bad at it, Kate. I have books and I start them and then I just by the end of the day I'm just a zombie. So it's amazing how, like you said, when you're working in grief and that's what you're doing all the time, the end of the day you're done, right?
yeah,
You're
yeah.
there's not a
I'm
lot.
kind of, I'm going through one of those phases too. I'm the kind of person I'd go to the library and I'd bring 12 books home and I'd read them all weekend long and take them back on Monday and start again the next weekend. And I haven't done that. I haven't really done that since I started writing my books. I was an avid reader and now it's a lot for me to read a book or read too far in a book.
Is it, do you think it's because we're getting old?
I don't know. I think it's just a chapter in our lives.
I
It's
think so.
we're
I think
both really busy with you're busy all day, I'm busy all day, and
And I don't know if people realize you work in hospice with people right now. Like
yeah,
that's your part-time day job type
yeah,
thing, right? Apart from writing books,
yeah.
you're also dealing with death and dying
I am.
on a daily basis.
I've still got stories coming in. See, every person I work with is a story.
Right.
Yeah, so
It's
watch out, there'll be more books.
I love that, Kate. And you know, I think because we're such a grief illiterate society that we need more people like you writing books about grief to
Hmm.
let people know that it's okay to not be okay.
Hmm.
It's what we're going through right now is perfectly fine, perfectly normal. We're designed to process grief, right?
Yeah,
We've been doing it for thousands of years.
yeah, and
You look at our grandparents. I mean, the way when somebody died back when our grandparents were alive, it's handled so much differently than it is nowadays.
oh my gosh, yes.
You know, there was so much more respect, I think,
Uh,
back in those days compared to now.
and think about in the old days, they'd have the body in the parlor
Yeah,
and it would be there for several days before
right.
they'd have a funeral and all that. And go from that extreme to COVID-19, where you can't even have a service unless you're laying in state.
It makes
But
me so sad. It makes me so sad. And
it's,
you know, you just wonder with everything that's happening in the world right now, if this is all happening on purpose because something has to change, you know?
yeah, you got to think about that.
Yeah, you really do.
There's
That
a lot of things by design.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. Even the Hearst, you know, like that was a sign of respect. Is if you
Oh,
saw a
right.
Hearst, you pulled over to the side of the road, you know, or if there was a funeral going on, all the procession cars have their lights on, and you pulled over to the side road. I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a Canadian thing, you
Do you
know.
remember that song? Oh, when you see the hearse go by. Did
I
you
don't.
remember that?
Oh
Does
no.
anybody out there remember that? You know that you'll be the next to die.
Really?
This was a children's song. They
Oh, it
wrap
sounds
you up with
morbid.
moldy sheets and then they bury you 6 feet deep.
I
Then
don't
you're
know
away
that,
for,
Kate. Oh my
oh my
gosh.
gosh. Can you believe that we sang that as children? It's disgusting.
Well, kind of like Ring Around the Rosie, right?
It is like that. But that's what we do to deal with our feelings. Somebody wrote that because they needed to lighten it up, I guess.
Wow, I'll have to look that up now. You've got me interested.
Yeah.
I'm just looking on here. Tina says this pandemic can't talk. And being home is especially hard without our pups. All of their lives they waited for us to get home from work. Now I'm home and he's gone. How ironic and sad.
Oh, and
Yeah.
it's too early. Is it too early to think of another pet? It's too early.
Yeah, I don't know how, Tina, how long ago was your loss? Write to us if you can, and I'll keep looking. Annie says, I'm finally laughing in one of these meetings with the Hearst song. She's obviously heard it
She's
before.
heard it.
Lisa asked, can you speak to how we could celebrate the anniversaries? I've planted a garden for Lily. I've remembered her through sanctuaries and donations. So, um,
So
what,
that's
what,
good.
what do you say for that, Kate?
Other ways, I think those
Yeah,
are beautiful ways to do it. I'm a candle lighter.
yeah.
I'd light the candle the night before and let it and keep it burning for 24 hours.
Mhm.
Um, Going to the places, and this is really hard for people who are freshly grieving, but going to the places where your pet loved to be. If it's your cat and they sat on the window seat with the sun coming in, to sit there, it gives a sense of being close to them.
Yeah.
Me going up onto Jack's trail, I feel close to him up there. I think that if you put yourself in their shoes, what
Yeah.
would they want to see you doing? They want to
And,
see you honoring your life
and
together.
and sometimes when you're at those places, you will see signs, won't you, Kate?
That's right, because you're in the
Yeah.
right place at the right time.
Exactly. I remember after Stella died, and I brought home the ashes, and I can remember driving into my driveway and looking up, and there was like the most beautiful, beautiful rainbow, like a double
Yeah,
rainbow. And I just thought, okay, that's not that's purposeful,
that's
like
right.
she's there. She's
That's
there.
right.
And I took a picture of it because I'll never forget that. And I
That's good.
just amazing.
You can
Um,
prove it.
Lisa says candles for her too. Tina says 8 months. 8 months was her loss. I can't imagine getting
Yeah,
another dog. Too painful to lose them. Tina, I said that too. It took me 3 years to get Stelly after I lost Stella. And I don't know what changed, but all of a sudden one day I just kind of woke up and I thought, you know what? I miss the smell, the fur, the feel, the pads on the floor, the jingling of the collar. I missed it so much, Tina. And at that point, I knew it was time for me to get another baby. But up to that point, I probably couldn't have because I was just too difficult.
you- I'll confess something that I went through. My friend Lois, whose birthday's coming up, she took Joey for that week when I had Jack at home because he's just all over the place. He's all springing around, and we didn't need that when Jack was trying to heal.
Yeah.
And then Jack passed, and Lois had brought Joey over to say goodbye to Jack because we felt Joey needed to know what was happening. And then she took Joey home, and it was the first day of my grief. And I said to Lois, we had another friend who had lost her dog not long before. She had a little dog. And I said, I think I want to give Joey to Carmen. And it wasn't a sensible thing at all. It was my grief speaking.
Yeah.
If I couldn't have Jack, I didn't want any dog. I didn't want anything. And
Right.
then the irony of everything was, and you'd read about this in book 3, The Rainbow Bridge. Um, she brought Joey back, and Joey and I did well until I had to go to work, and he had terrible separation anxiety that I never knew about because Jack was always there with him.
Oh, so he was grieving too.
Oh, but no, he had separation anxiety that went all the way back to before I had him.
Oh my
He
God.
tore the house up. He scraped up the leather couch. He broke himself out of a metal kennel.
Seriously.
He's a strong little guy. But anyway, so then I'm like, summer's coming, and I can't take him with me everywhere in the summer in Arizona with the car and the
Yeah.
heat. So then I got myself together, and I ended up with Emmy. You see Emmy over there? Is
Oh,
she up there?
there he
She's
is.
sleeping. Yeah. But
She's so
I found a dog on Facebook. There was a man up in Montana that had a dog, and I went to that was the dog that drew me to Montana. I ended up with Emmy. So,
Oh, I
but
don't know Amy's
I
story.
think that was by design too, but I didn't know it then.
Yeah, isn't that interesting, right? When you look back, when you start connecting all the pieces of the puzzle together, it's
It is
like, yeah, there's a bigger
synchronicity.
picture, right?
Yeah.
there's definitely a bigger picture.
And you
Um,
can't see it when you're grieving. You can't see it when you're in the throngs of grief.
no, you
So.
really can't. Lisa says, "Hello, Emmy." Um, Annie says, "That's so sad, Kate. Joey felt the pain too of losing Jack."
Yes, he did.
Candles. I've got 32 comments, but I can't see them all, Kate.
Oh, what are we gonna do?
Well, I don't know. Next time, because we're kind of learning all this, we could maybe try the Facebook room where people come in, and I think if we do the Facebook room, I think all of us can talk at the same time.
That would be
That would be
nice.
nice rather than us,
That
going
would be
back,
really nice.
yeah, going back and forth. So we should do this again. And we will do this again. But I think next time we might do it in your group, right?
We can do that.
We'll do it
Yep,
in your group and
that
maybe at
would
a
be
different
nice.
time for our people who are in the UK so
Yeah,
that they
that
can
would be
kind of
nice.
tune in as well.
Is anybody here from the UK? Do
There,
you
I know I have some people from Australia. Um, as I said, I can't see any of the comments right
know? Oh, okay, okay,
now. You're gonna have to bear with us, guys.
okay.
We're
Yeah,
we're good, but we're not that good yet.
we're
But we'll,
gonna get
we'll
better at
we'll
it.
get there. Yeah, we'll get there. So I really enjoyed this today, Kate, and I hope we gave everybody just a little bit of what they can do with the anniversaries, and it really comes down to being a personal choice, right?
It does.
Um,
Everything is.
yeah,
Yeah,
how you want to. For me, it's difficult for me that day, so I make an acknowledgement, and then I have to let it go because I just can't open up
yeah.
that wound.
Well,
um
I'd like to touch just on you for a minute
yeah.
in that it's really important to breathe. People people forget how to breathe when they're grieving,
Mhm.
and centering yourself and breathing is really important. But what do you offer? You offer some services, don't you?
Oh, well, oh gosh, yeah, you kind of threw that at me there. I wasn't
I
expecting
did.
that.
It's only fair. My gosh, we spend 45 minutes on my books. We could talk about you for a few minutes.
Um, so I am people don't like the word hypnotist, but it's what I am. So I can't I can give you other words. I'm a mind coach. Um, so what I do, and there are some people, individuals that I've been working with to just teach them little things that they can do to overcome the harsh grief. And basically, it's just grounding yourself and bringing you back into the here and now, because it's so important that you grieve and you go through all the processes, all the stages that you need to. What's really lovely about both of the groups is we kind of follow Elizabeth Kubler-Ross's the 5 stages of grief, and I love Elizabeth. And there's politics with everything, and there's people that are going to say, oh well, she didn't mean those stages to um to be she only wanted to use them on the dying. They weren't pertinent to people who are grieving. And no, that's not true. There there is a little bit of all of those stages that you're going to go through, and you won't necessarily go through them all. Some people will experience some of more of one and less of the other. But I like Elizabeth, and if any of you are curious about who she is and what her message was, definitely look her up sometime. She was amazing advocate for
Yeah,
the
she
death and
was.
dying. Did you ever meet her, Kate?
I
Did you
wish
ever?
I could say I had, but I haven't. I studied her a lot in college and I saw
Yeah.
a lot of videos, but I talk about her a lot in book 4, and I'm not pushing the books at all, but
No,
if
but it's true.
I go through every stage of grief, and it's speaking to the reader from the pet's point of view. So you feel connected to the pet while you read it, but
Mhm.
it talks about every single stage and what it feels like to go through those stages. And if you understand what the stages are, you understand yourself better, and you have a little more patience with yourself to say, oh, I'm supposed to be going through this anger. I'm supposed to be angry right now, or I know I can't accept this until I go through these other stages, and that's why I'm going through this.
And I'm not losing my mind,
You know,
you know,
and we go
because
through it. We go through it with every loss. We go through the 5 stages. We go through the 5 stages with our own death. We go through the stages with someone else's death. But also, if we lose our job, if we lose our relationship, we go through these stages, and they're pretty predictable.
and
So,
that's one of the questions I'll ask people when they're so deep in their grief. Like, what other losses have you had in your life? And I'm not just talking grief losses. There's 40 different types of losses that people can go through. And like you said, loss of a relationship, loss of a job, loss of a friendship, loss of there's just so many
yeah,
things.
the loss of an ability to do something.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, yes. And all of those things accumulate on top of each other and make your grief so much more difficult
yeah,
than it is. But when you can
yep,
realize that, it just kind of puts things into perspective, right?
does, yep.
Yeah. Um, okay, everybody is talking amongst themselves, which is wonderful. Trish says, I just saw this. I would have loved to have seen the entire live. Looking forward to the next one. There's a replay, so you guys will be able to replay this and watch it again. I will provide some links below for Kate's books and also for Jack. You guys need to go like
Yeah.
Jack's page.
My Jack
And
of Hearts.
Jack of Hearts, yes, my Jack of Hearts, right?
Yep.
And there's inspirational messages on there every day. And a lot of times, Kate, I will share them onto this group, but
Thank you.
it's really nice for people to just go there and just look through them, and they resonate with you. They really
Yeah,
do.
we have a relationship. Some of these people have been coming back for a long time, and some of the new ones are really involved with Jack. And there's a lot of rapport going on. It's
Yeah,
really nice.
yeah,
Really, it's nice for me too.
absolutely. And
Yeah,
the whole thing that Kate and I want is we just want to show you guys that yes, you can grieve, but there's light. You know, there is a way to get to that light when you've done your time, when you've gone through the process, there
mhm.
is light at the end of that tunnel. And that is so important because maybe one day you will open your heart to love again. Trish, I'm hoping, I'm
I hope
hoping
that
that
too.
you will be able to love again because there's just nothing better than that animal
That's
beside
right.
you. It's I can't imagine my life without those four-legged.
No, I
Um,
can't either.
no, no. Well, Kate, we should probably close down for
I
tonight.
know. That went
And
fast.
we've had lots of people joining us. I thank everybody for joining us. And maybe next
Yeah,
time we'll do it in the room, the Facebook room, which I don't
yeah,
know anything about, but
we can play with that.
we can play with it. Yeah, and try and see. And if it doesn't work out, then we just go back to doing this. So
Okay.
it's fine. So signing off from Kenda Summers,
Thank you all for joining us. Thank you.
and we will talk to you again real soon.
Yep.
Bye bye.